Hey there, welcome. Welcome to Rise and Receive. This is an opportunity in your day to stop whatever you're doing and take a little time to explore how to receive fulfillment in your life by unlearning struggle. So today we're talking about tip number 8 to invite fulfilling relationships. And today's tip is entitled, Have a Purpose. So I invite you to take a moment to think about one relationship in your life, whether it's a really important one where you'd like to invite greater fulfillment, or maybe it's one that you're struggling with or feeling lost around. Just kind of bring that into your awareness. And I'm going to ask you a question to warm us up for today's tip so that you can get the most from our time together. And here's the question. What is the purpose of that relationship? Just ponder that question. Do you have a purpose for that relationship? Are you aware of a purpose for that relationship? Has this concept of having a purpose for a relationship never even occurred to you? Well, if it hasn't, I think you're really going to like what we're going to talk about today. So just kind of settle in with that relationship in mind and heart and that question about what's the purpose of that relationship, and then just receive what today has to offer. If you don't know me, my name is Sonia Miller. I'm a speaker, coach, and best-selling author, and I mentor ambitious, goal-oriented people to surpass their limits with ease and speed. And the way that I do this is that I illuminate the behaviors and the blind spots that are unique to outcome-driven people, because outcome-driven people and those that are ambitious and goal-oriented tend to approach their goals and dreams in a very specific way, and we tend to over-rely on the hunter skill set of pursuing targets and goals, which is great for certain things in your life, but actually we tend to be malnourished in another skill that's based in the being model of power, in contrast to the doing model of power, which is what the hunter or the pursuer relies on. And when you are malnourished or disconnected from the being model of power, you tend to be missing one important skill that you really need for your greatest fulfillment in life, and that is how to receive. Because if you know how to hunt and pursue, but you don't know how to actually stop that and receive what you've been working so hard for, what do? When our goals don't arrive, we work even harder. And that right there is the cause of our upper limit issues. So here we illuminate the skill how to receive, and we really shine the spotlight on the behaviors and the blind spots that you need to be aware of so that you can open up and dissolve that upper limit or that glass ceiling. So we're talking about relationships now, and as I said, the tip today is have a purpose. And this is specifically going to be focusing on having a purpose for your relationships. Hi, Karina. Great to have you here. Now, the thing I want to illuminate is that in all of my Rise and Receives, I always kind of talk about the two models of power, the doing model of power, which is a lot of thinking and action and having a target on your horizon, and the being model of power, which is about feeling and receiving and experiencing. And the symbol that we use is the majestic tree, who receives all day long more than it could ever need or want without lifting a finger or lifting a branch. That's what becomes possible when we understand that skill set. So when it comes to relationships, if we over-rely on the hunter model and are not so familiar with the tree model of power, then we can kind of sabotage ourselves and we can struggle unnecessarily. So let's kind of start, diving deeper and unpacking this. The doing model of power is going to be task-oriented. It's got a target. The hunter wants to catch the prize, and when it's done, and it goes, yay, I've succeeded. But then what happens? It goes back into seeking. So when you're using the pursuing model of power, most of the time you're in seeking mode. Now, when you're task-oriented, what tends to happen is you are reacting and responding to the thing that needs to happen right now to get the task done. Okay. Now, when you're in the being model of power, you're going to be growth-oriented. Okay. So it's an ongoing experience of showing up and being and nurturing and experiencing. Now, here's the thing to know. You can bring the concept or the idea or the context of having a purpose to doing and to being, and that changes your whole experience. Let's say you're a hunter, right? Or you're a project manager, and you don't have clarity about what the purpose of the project is or what the purpose of the hunt is. Let's stay with hunting just to keep it simple. So the purpose of the hunt is to capture this particular animal so that you can feed yourself and bring it back to your family and feed your village. There's a higher purpose for that. But if you're out in the wilderness and you lose sight of your purpose and then you start reacting to whatever is happening in the moment, you actually could die because you weren't really being strategic, you weren't being responsive, you weren't being aware of everything that I do while I'm on the hunt needs to serve this purpose because I need to bring food back to my family. And if you're just reacting to noises and ideas and concerns and worries or whatever shows up in your environment without really being thoughtful and mindful about, I need to respond and not react so that I can honor my purpose, you may not succeed. So you can bring purpose to doing, and that allows you to be much more effective and have a long range approach rather than the short-term immediate need sort of a reaction. And we're going to break this down a little bit more in a moment. Now, when you're in being mode or growth mode, you also have a purpose. And however that applies to your situation, whether it's how your purpose is expressed in your relationships or in money or in your body, then what that does is it informs all of your actions and you can be fulfilled. So purpose actually can be brought into either situation. And the key about purpose is not something you do. It's a state of consciousness. It's something that you stay connected to and aware of, and it allows you to navigate. So I've started to touch into a little bit of the contrast. I'm going to go a little bit deeper so you can really walk away with some specific nuggets for this. So what happens when there is lack of purpose? Lack of purpose tends to mean, like I said, you're going to react, and it's all about short-term immediate needs gratification. That's something that my very first relationship teacher taught me. When it comes to some relationships, it's all about short-term immediate needs gratification. And that's okay as long as you're aware of it. And so what happens with that, with lack of purpose, is you're going to be reactive. You're going to be reacting to your immediate feelings in the situation. It's going to be based on instinct. It's just this animal instinct, and you don't have a North Star to navigate. So think about that relationship again. And if you don't have a purpose for it, see if this applies. Do you feel like you're lost? Do you feel like you don't have a way to navigate your way through? Do you feel like you're reacting to your own feelings or the other person's feelings or just circumstances? Are you just kind of going on instinct? Okay. That can be very challenging in a relationship, especially if you want to have fulfillment in it. Now, if you have a purpose for the relationship, you're going to be looking towards long-term fulfillment. That purpose is going to be asking the question, how am I going to be fulfilled in this relationship? What is going to be fulfilling? How will I know? And if you give that relationship a purpose, and I'm going to give you a couple examples of purposes for relationships, you're going to be really accessing something very powerful to invite fulfillment in that relationship. So when you're purpose-oriented in a relationship, then you're going to be more responsive than reactive. You're going to have your sights set on what are the higher priorities rather than what are my immediate feelings or the other person's feelings that I'm reacting to. Your relationship is going to be based on vision. You're going to have a vision for your relationship. When you don't have a vision, you're just going to be based on instinct, conditioning, just the nervous system response. But when you have a vision, then you can stay connected to the higher priorities. And all of this provides a North Star. So when you're asking, what do I do here? If you go back to tip number 2 around relationships, which is to focus on the relationship, not the person, then the combination of that context plus having a purpose then provides this North Star, so you are much more effective in navigating towards greater fulfillment. So let's talk about some examples of a purpose, okay? You can be in dating mode. Let's say you are not interested in having a long-term committed relationship. Well, if you understand that the purpose of dating might be to have fun, that's a great purpose. And the moment that the relationship starts going in a different direction, you can be aware and have that North Star bring you back to, well, is this still the purpose of this relationship, to have fun? Or has my purpose changed? And maybe I want to explore long-term committed, right? Conversely, let's say the purpose of your romantic relationships right now is to invite a primary romantic relationship. Well, if you're connecting with somebody whose behaviors are showing you that they're really just interested in short-term recreational, then that's going to be good information because you have a purpose and a vision for your dating. Your dating is about discovering and co-creating something through a vision of what is it that allows us to move towards the same thing together for the long term. The purpose of a relationship, dating might not necessarily be about having fun, because for some people, dating isn't fun. It's actually a means to an end, right? So, but let's say, well, if I want to get married, and I know I'm talking a lot about romantic relationships, but you can apply this to anything: family, friendship, work, okay? This is just an easy one that everyone tends to relate to. So let's say I need to date if I'm going to meet the person that I'd like to have a primary relationship with, but dating's not fun. Well, what purpose can you have rather than to have the purpose be, I got to get through this chore, right? A means to an end. Well, the purpose of dating then can be about learning and growing. Dating is just as much about finding out what you don't want as it is about finding out what you do want. And every time you go on a date, you learn something about the types of people that are out there. You learn about yourself. You learn about what your information gaps are. So the purpose can be about learning and growing. And let's say you are in a romantic relationship or a primary partnership or a business relationship, and you have a purpose which is about having something bigger than you, right? Something that's creative. Or maybe the purpose is, this is an investment in my emotional nourishment for the future and in nourishing my kids or nourishing, my company, right? So the purpose could be to create a space where I am better than I would be on my own. I remember when I was much younger and I first started dating, and I got hold of this concept around purpose. And after I healed a bunch of wounds because I was without purpose, I just wanted to get married, and I was just dating, but it was completely unconscious, completely reactive. And so then I started to unconsciously bring in the purpose of, I wanted to learn and grow, and I wanted to learn how to have a fulfilling relationship. So then dating and even volunteer work with, other people started to teach me more about how I was in my relationships. And once I did a lot of healing and I wasn't looking for a relationship from a wounded place, and I'm like, well, I still want a relationship. I want a primary relationship, but it's not for the same reasons. What's the purpose now? And for me, this is just me, but just as an example, I really got clear that there was no point in making a commitment in a relationship unless that relationship made me better than I would be without it. And that became the higher purpose of my discovery process. I would step into the relationship, I'd explore when I would date somebody, and then I would really always be aware of, is this purpose being fulfilled? Am I better than I would be without the person? Because like I said, in tip number 2, I was focused on the relationship, not the person. I was focused on who I was being rather than just reacting to emotions and feelings. So it's a very powerful thing to have a purpose, and it becomes your North Star. Now, the whole point of this series is to invite fulfilling relationships. So how does having a purpose invite fulfillment? Well, what purpose does is it turns problems into opportunities. When you know where you want to go, there's a saying, if you don't know where you want to go, you may never get there. If you know where you want to go, if you have a vision, then even when problems arise, you can see it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to discover, and to either move closer towards that purpose with that person or to realize that isn't the right person. Again, family, you can navigate that differently, in work, in romance, in all situations. The other way that purpose invites fulfilling relationships is that purpose summons abundance, abundance and resources that serve the purpose that you're focused on. Okay. When you don't have a purpose and you're reacting, it's just you and the reaction, you and the other person, and it doesn't have any direction. But when you say, this is the purpose that I'm here to fulfill, because your consciousness creates your reality, it summons assets, abundance, and resources that serve that, because your consciousness is focused on what you're creating. So it's very, very powerful to have a purpose, because it helps you navigate, it turns problems into opportunities, and it summons abundance on behalf of the kind of relationship that you're inviting into your experience. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please like, please share. It helps me reach the people that I'm here to serve. And click the subscribe button on YouTube. It also does the same thing. I'll include links for next steps and resources that you can explore if you'd like to learn more about how to invite fulfilling relationships or receive your fulfillment by unlearning struggle. At very least, if you haven't joined the Receive community, please check us out. That's all we do, is we explore and practice and learn and connect around receiving our fulfillment by unlearning struggle. There's always daily tips and ideas and questions for you to explore this. And that's here on Facebook. So just look for the link above or below. I hope I'll see you there. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Remember, you cannot receive what you most want if you don't know how to receive. Bye, everybody.